I look at your the timing, race finish timing for 10K, 49 minutes, 21 is 1 hour 56.
Yeah.
And 42K, I think you did a sub 4 in the Adani Ahmedabad Marathon. And then 50K in 520, and then 12 hour stadium run is 112. So you're certainly an endurance person, right? So it's very clear from the timing. Now, I'm going to stop here for a few minutes and let the Fitzians ask some questions. Okay.
It's amazing to know your story so far. I mean, nobody's sleeping. I can tell you that much. Everybody's listening to you. So in fact, there's one part which you said that you realize you're not made for speed and you're made for endurance. So in fact, I just wanted to share one point, because I was of the same opinion for a longish period of time, and then I switched. So is there a possibility, or is there, why did you think that way? Why did you not? Because you are pretty fast in your 10K by any standard. So why did
Yeah.
you think?
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to know why.
So as Kannan sir also pointed out, so all those timings that you're seeing is from the past 1 year. So if you go back to when I was doing my 10K or my half or full, I had never really run anything. So my 10K was never below 60 until like 4 years before, and half marathon was never under. I think I'd done a 2 hours or 2:15 or something, but never faster than that. Uh, so with endurance, after I started doing my ultras, and uh, actually I did my first official 5K 2 years ago. So there was an event in Manyata Tech Park which Hrithik Roshan was coming, and I'm a huge fan of him. So I wanted to be there just to see him, and so I signed up. We had a huge group of friends, and I went, ran that event without any thought about timing. But after I finished the event, I realized that there was a cash prize of like 75,000 and 50,000 and 30,000, which was announced on the podium. And I had finished in fourth position, about 15 seconds behind. Like it was some 25 minutes something that I had run. That was my fastest. I don't know if it was Ritik or my endurance, my speed had improved. Um, so that's when I realized that maybe I can run fast. And it's not really a crime to try running faster if that's what my goal is. So all these timings that are there are only from the past 1 year when I started training to do training to qualify for the Indian team, because you had to do like so the previous Asia Oceania Championship qualification criteria was that you had to be able to run 110 kilometers in 12 hours. So if I had to run that much, then I had to have some speed. So that's when I did all these 10K half and stuff like that. So, but one thing I would say for anybody who's doing 10Ks or half marathons and who sees some possibility of scaling up is how you feel after the run. So if it's a 10K and you feel that you did do a pretty okay job with speed and you still have a lot of energy left, then probably you could try running faster if that is what you are aiming for. So it finally boils down to what your goal is. See, most of the times we don't have that much of time to train. And I see that people chase timings without having the time to actually put in the time that is needed to be running that paces, and eventually that leads to injuries and stuff if you don't have a coach who can actually guide you well enough and say that, okay, so if you have 2 hours a week or say 3 hours a week, this is what the plan is, and I think maybe a 55-minute 10K or a 60-minute 10K is on the cards if you can train consistently for 3 months. So I think as an individual, we need to take that call whether you want to go behind speed or endurance.
One more aspect of developing endurance is all about developing running economy, right? So running economy is one of the well-researched topic. A lot of mileage, a lot of slow endurance running is going to improve the way your body utilizes the fuel, and also your body is adapted to run longer for without kind of crying out of pain. I think even without training for speed, when you have, I remember finishing this 42 weekend running in all slow runs anywhere between 5 hours to 9 hours of finishing 42 Ks, and I came and finished my close to 45 minutes of running a 10K. It's like from nowhere at that time. It's so beautiful. Okay, and I think that the body goes through an adaptation. So there's another question from Sujata. How many hours do you train every day?
So I believe in this fact that it's never for an event that you train, but you religiously train as a lifestyle. So now fitness is a lifestyle for me. It's never, so although it started out as something that fascinated me and I was very thrilled, and then it transcended into something where I was able to find a meaning for who I am and all that. Although I think people would have heard about this, the introspection phase and all that. Then it moved on to a goal of being able to represent India, and which I'm still chasing. But leaving all that apart, um, I don't have a fixed strategy for number of hours that I want to train. But let's say I have an event for in 3 months down the line. So let's say I have the OT Ultra 90K, which I'm very looking forward to running, and hopefully things will be in line with that. So if that is my goal, then I know that 90K would possibly take me this much of time. So we have that cutoff for the OT Ultra. So I would try and run that cutoff within the week. So say 10 hours or 12 hours or 15 hours. So depending on the end goal after 3 or 4 months, I put that time. But that is not really a goal itself. But I don't kill myself on following plans. As I said, I don't follow a plan. I make it as a weekly or 2 weekly, bi-weekly kind of a target of, say, I have to do 20 hours of training. And I'm slowly coming out of the whole mindset that it's all about running. Uh, from the past 6 months, I'm putting in a lot of strength training and also working on recovery. So that takes up about half of the time. Gradually, I am trying to reduce the amount of running that I'm doing and also focusing on strength workouts. So I would say anywhere now, because it's a lean period and we're not able to really go out and run. So through the whole lockdown, I never did any kind of running at all. I'm not someone who believes in short loops and running inside the house, and I never tried that. But I did at least a week. I would do 1.5 hours of walk. So this is something that I've been doing for the past 2 months, and walking within the house or the premises itself for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. I've even done 42K walk within the house, because as per my goal, mental training is much more important for the goals that I'm chasing than the physical. Physical we can all train, and I believe that we need to train the mental aspect equally or little more than that, because even if you're physically fit and your mind is not really with you, then it will not really work out. So for a 10K or someone, I can't really speak, but for my current fitness endeavors and my goals, about 20 hours is what I train per week.
I want to talk about Malnad Ultra. Last year was very interesting because the course was toughest amongst all the Malnad Ultra events that had happened in the past. And in fact, I was also fortunate to be one of the run managers. So the course was wet, slushy, infested with a lot of leeches. And I remember standing at the 33rd kilometer. So my responsibility was to mark the first 50 kilometers. It's actually a loop, and then also be there at the man the aid station. And 33 kilometers is actually climb down that mountain 10 kilometers, and then you come up, go all the way up after finishing the loop.
True.
So the route was extremely difficult. There were many people falling. They were hurting themselves. Their legs were bleeding because of the leeches. And then after the first 50K was done, the last 30 kilometers, like 30 plus 30, you're basically going to do the remaining 60 kilometers in 2 loops. It's basically 1 loop of 30K you're going to do. And of course, there were some challenges with the route. And I remember seeing you at the after finishing the 80th kilometer, and there were many people afraid of getting into the trail. And then many runners were quitting, and they said that no, we're not going to go. The route is challenging and it's not very clear. We may get lost. And then I remember you coming with a bunch of runners, and then I think the group almost decided they're not going to go. And then I hear your voice saying that, come on, guys, we're going to finish that 30 kilometers. I still remember that loud, very highly charged, energetic voice, a lady voice, very familiar voice coming. And I was like so out to see that. And then suddenly there were like a moment of silence, and 5 people said that, okay, come, Ashwini is going, let's all go. I certainly admired the courage. It was also, I would say, being a run manager with a different responsibility, it was a very blind courage, I would say, to venture into an unknown territory, especially the dark, and the route is completely unknown, filled with slush and mud. And so what really ran through your mind at that time to push everybody and take everybody inside? And also you came and finished, 110 kilometers on that day. Many runners decided to stop. And in fact, the race also was, the direction from the race director also was to kind of, take it easy on that day. So what really happened on that day, Ashwini?
So that was the longest distance that I had ever attempted. I had done, so the previous edition of Malnad Ultra, I had done my 80, which was the longest at that time. And then I did the Wagaman 90 in January. So as I said, I have developed a very huge love for trails. Any day, if you give me a choice between road and trail, I would choose the trails because that's where I feel most alive. And I mean, the Mother Nature is very rewarding. So the number of injuries or the shock to the body or the recovery time is much more faster when you run on trails as against the road. So if I were to run on road, say 60 kilometers or 70 kilometers, and same thing on trail, I know my body recovers much faster on a trail. So I have a huge love for trails. So when I went into the event, and the warning of the event, when the race director Anand Kodi sir, he announced that we've had issues and you're all aware of it. We've had incessant trains and we've not been able to manage stuff. But I hope that things are in place. That's the kind of thing that he started out with. So I saw that, but I am someone who never looks at the elevation profile of an event or gets worried about when the aid station is or the cutoffs. So that's how the mindset has been for me. So I never knew the elevation profile of Malnad. I knew I had to do my first 110K. That's all is what I went with. So I started the run. The first 50K was good. It was really very beautiful terrain. I mean, the scenes were immaculate. And after we came down to your aid station, I saw you there and we clicked a photo together. And then we went out and we knew we had to come back. Yeah, things were not ideal, but that is something that I always go with an open mind, because trails are supposed to be like that. You can't expect trails to be really like roads, really smooth and ideal conditions. So when you go with the mindset, you're more open. I don't think you get very irritated or moved by the fact that things have changed. So even if it was slushy or things like that, I think. Are you trying to say something, Kanan?
Not sure, sorry.
Okay. So I had gone in with that mindset. So irrespective of what the trail is going to offer, I knew that it will be hard. There will be places where it will be too slushy, because I knew the spots where we had to go out and we had to come back, because I'd seen the arrows. I knew with say 200 people or 300 people crossing it, and when I come back it will be slushy. So I had already prepared my mind for it. So once we finished that 30K, 35K, I met two guys who were actually running pretty well, but straight away from a road experience, and they didn't have any experience of the trains. So they had not really taken any torches, thinking that they are going to be okay. So I met them, and then we got along, and then we finished the first 80. So when I came in for the 80, I saw a lot of people who were dropping out. I heard that, but I knew it was my first 110, and I wanted to finish it. Um, and I had told myself, irrespective of whether I get support, because in India now, even when I ran Wagaman, the race director also tells you that because you're a girl, women please tag along with the male. Okay, so but actually, so the 80K, when I came in, I changed my shoes. My husband was there and my friend was there to support me. I didn't want to actually pay any heed to what was happening there, because there was a lot of commotion. When I finished 50K and came back, we had to wait for 45 minutes because the route was in some issues, and the lead runners were coming back, and we heard a lot of foul language being used, and they were all very irritated that it was not going as per plan. So we waited, and then we were given a go ahead and a choice that if you want to go ahead, we know the route is fixed. There are people at places which are confusing, so it's your choice. They told us that. And at that point, I knew it was my choice because I signed up to do my 110, irrespective of what happens on the course. If there is a route and if it is possible to run it, I am going to run it. That was the attitude that I had. So after that 80K,
Okay.
I set out. I was alone. My husband was very worried because many people had already stopped. It was already dark. And then he told me also, he reminded me that don't risk it, because he knows I'm someone who wants to push the envelope and challenge, because it was a challenge and I wanted to take it. So I went. I got lost and came back to the start line. That's when I met you. And then I asked you, so is there something that has changed? Because I'd done that 4K additional and got lost and came back there. That's when I started. I met those four guys who were going along and we tagged along. But when I look back at Malnad, more than what the challenges were or anything, what I see is the satisfaction of finishing that run and all that I learned about myself through the run. So there were points definitely where I was tired and there was like uphills which were crazy and I would not even want to look up because it's so much of a walk. Um, but I knew I wanted to do my event well. It didn't matter, the conditions didn't matter to me. So
It's amazing to know that you're able to drive, pull yourself through the challenges, and also, and I'm sure those who tagged along with you must have been, they would never regret the decision of coming there. I remember the jubilation when all of you finished with hands up, hands to hands connected together, and it was really a wonderful scene to see that. I remember talking to you before requesting you to come and run the Ooty Ultra 90K. So this was certainly a road run. I don't know now, knowing you, maybe I'm thinking that I made a mistake of inviting you to run a 90K on a road, knowing that you're a trail level. You're also preparing for the 90K. And when the COVID hit us, when the lockdown was announced, and of course, you might have seen my announcement for postponing the Ooty Ultra. So what ran into your mind? Is it like not a philosophical approach to, okay, we're going to accept the change, but as an athlete, what did you really think about the postponement? And I think there were also some changes to the IAF run events that you were supposed to participate. So can you talk about what ran through your mind when the COVID lockdown announcement came and how it would affect some of your goals? And especially you're kind of aspiring to represent the country and the international trail event or the international endurance event at the stadium, I guess.
Yeah. When I started running, I was a person who was very short-tempered and kind of judgmental, I would say. I would jump into conclusions and not really think about repercussions or what really goes on the other side. Mm, I mean, I'm just being honest here, but through running, I have realized that we can only control what's in our control. So if it is something that I can't do anything about, there's no point ruling about it. So it was definitely disappointing. Actually, I was in Gurgaon when the COVID situation got out of hand, and so I was there for an event in March. So March 15th was supposed to be the event, which was 100K, which would have actually guaranteed my position in the team. So that got called off. So I was in Gurgaon. I had reached there on March 12th, and then we were all ready. I was in my sister-in-law's place, and the night before the event, so at 9 p.m. So the event was supposed to start at 5 the next day, and we get a call saying that the event has been called off because the situation is grim. For about 2 hours, I was just sitting there silent, and because I had written down this goal that I want to represent India in 2020 and put it on my wardrobe so that every day when I wake up, that can drive me. That can be a force because we all have our lazy days and days when you don't want to train or you don't want to be active. But that was something that was actually motivating me to put in the work because if I don't put in the work, I knew that it would not happen. So when that cancellation of the event happened, I was actually I didn't know what to think. Then I realized in the whole scheme of things, it was very small. Running event, yeah, as much as we believe that it's life changing and being able to represent, I'm not trying to be philosophical or spiritual here, but that's what I felt after that 2 hours. Like 2 hours was like just silent. I didn't know, like, okay, what's going to happen next? Because this is what I trained for the whole year, and there was a chance, and now it's gone out of the window. Then I realized it's not something that I can control. So sometimes things happen at the right time. And there is very little that we can do if it is not the right time. Appropriate time has to come. So I just let it go, and then I decided that it's fine. I think maybe I was not ready at this moment to run. So I had to run 100K under 9:30 to qualify for the team. So
Yeah.
12 hours was not really a criteria anymore. So when I look back now, after 2 months of the lockdown and things like that, probably I was not ready to go in and put in that effort, and probably things happen for good. So that's how I would want to look at it. And now it's given me more time to really get myself ready and for the challenge when it happens. So now what I am thinking is if it was 9:30, then I don't have to actually put my mind and train for 9:30. Maybe I can do it for 9. So
Okay.
that's the mindset I have because it's given me more time and I can actually get myself stronger and fitter instead of complying to a cutoff. So
Okay. So that also answers Prasanna Priya's question on why you're not chasing speed. No, that's actually not the truth. All right. Can we take a few more questions from the audience? So I have Pungundran. I think you already mentioned about the strength training. You said you're more focusing more on strength as well as running, and how close you are in realizing the qualifications, world events. Are you able to qualify? And I think it's just a matter of time. We need the right events. And once the lockdown opens, we can see her getting through this. And great Malnad story. Kind of almost on top of the hour, and I have a few more things to ask you. What is the future for, let's say, in the coming few years? What do you think as your realistic goals? Let's say I understand we need to take one thing at a time. You know, qualifying and representing the country is something that's top of your mind, and we all from the academy would like to take an opportunity to wish you good luck for making that happen. I will certainly be cheering you when the day happens. So now, what is beyond that? Let's say you kind of represent the country. what's beyond that? And also, you mentioned about in our conversation, you said you're also coaching a few people. So what's going on in your mind in terms of how you're going to be approaching your own running journey, and also giving back to the community in the form of coaching?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that in these lines, in terms of coaching?
So I think it was about 6 months ago that again I decided that maybe I should try and train with a group, because when we do stadium runs, because it's just loops around the 400-meter track, I saw the camaraderie that a group can bring in. Although my husband was always supportive of me and he would always be there, but if you did have a bigger group supporting you, or a group of friends and things like that, so I decided that maybe I should try running with a group and see if that will work. Unfortunately, although I tried a few groups, training with them for a week and two like that, what I've realized is, at least at the moment in Bangalore, we don't have groups which specifically have ultra running as a goal. So um, I don't want to point out or anything. So it's like this. If you're an ultra runner and you have marathoners in the team, then your training would be how much ever long runs you would do as a marathoner, you do twice of that. And if you're doing strength training, then probably you need to do little more longer duration and more number of reps. So what I felt was, ultra running coaching is something which needs more focus. And we don't have that as a field separately anywhere. It is still, so even the biggest running groups in Bangalore have ultra runners in them, a few of them, or because the ultra running community in Bangalore is not too huge. Although there are people who have done debut 50Ks and stuff like that, but people running longer, I'm sure you would know that most of the ultra runners are lone runners, just doing their stuff on their own, not really training with anybody. So I see that there is scope for coaching or help in that area. So that's how I'm headed. I am preparing for my AC certification, trying to learn more about the dynamics of the body, or endurance or nutrition, with ultra running as a focus. So that's where I see it. Apart from that, um, maybe a couple of years down the line, when we start off, we're all told that if you start doing 10Ks 1 year, 1.5 years, or 2 years, oh, you've been doing 10Ks for a long time, man. You should be scaling up to a half. So that's how the hierarchy people always usually believe that it should be. And when I started doing 12-hour runs, and when I at least started doing them well enough, people told me that you should be aiming for 24. So I did. It was my fifth attempt at the 12-hour now in February. And I remember even the biggest of the bigs telling me that, you should be stopping doing 12 hours anymore, and you should be focusing on 24. But I strongly believe that it's a very individual idea. So if someone believes that 21 kilometers is a distance for them, is the golden distance, and that's where they find the most joy after having tried a marathon, then I think we should stick with it. So at this moment, I don't see any scaling up with respect to endurance events. But as I said, I think if I want to improve, so I'm someone who wants to improve on what I'm doing currently. So 12 hours is a distance that I like. I know that I can do it well enough, and I don't have to break my head to be on the tracks for 12 hours. I am able to manage that. So I would probably want to try and do it well. So if I can do much more distance within that 12-hour period, or even 100K, how much more faster? All this remaining injury free. So that has been my bottom line throughout my running journey. To whatever happens, I don't want to get injured and be off running, because I love running so much. So that's why even my husband keeps telling me I don't need a reason to go out and run. Most of the times, what happens is people have plans if they're training with a group or a coach, and you have a 30K to run. If you're a marathoner, you have a long run, but they've had a long day, stressful day, and they've not had enough sleep and all that. But they do it because they have to do it. Many a times it happens so, but at least 90% of the times, all my runs are things that I'm so excited about, and I want to go out and do it. even the workouts, I'm trying to develop that love for it. I know it's hard because any day, even runners would say, I would rather run than do strength training because
Yeah.
that's the easier way out, and you want the easy way out. So that's how I see it, to get better now than looking for stepping up. I think this hierarchy is also better, the horizontal one than the vertical one.
Okay. So just one comment regarding what you said about, mention about, lack of ultra coaches, and I think it has got to do with the number of runners, even the community as a whole. If you see India, the running journey for Indians is, probably very serious running journeys last 10 years, I would say, or maybe less than that, 7, 8 years, 20 years back. Of course, the first event, first marathon was held in India, and now 20 years later, and I think that it is one of the largest growing sporting community, I would say. But I think the specialization, there are very little takers, and especially when you talk about ultramarathon, not many people have come to a realization that ultramarathon is a lot more to do with running. And we are not, we are actually headed in the right direction. As a coach, I can confidently say that. I think as a community, if somebody has to decide, if a coach has to say, I will train only ultramarathon, it's also not economically possible, because still this country has not realized to the fact that, okay, I'm ready to pay for coaching. And I'm grateful to see many people in my academy have the trust and come and seek that kind of expertise from me or from any other coaches for that matter. And I think the mindset change is happening now. I remember coaching 3 people on the first year when they went to Comrades 3 years back. And this year for the same Comrades Marathon, I was coaching 7 people. And we also have, so it is changing that the amount of people who are falling in love with ultramarathon is changing now. Okay, so one last question from my side. So before that, I would like anybody else, I don't know if you have, others have questions. Any other questions? I'll probably take one question from the Fitzians.
So I want to know how much hours of sleep you try to take every day, or do you believe in naps, or do you want to just sleep for one long duration?
So I have always believed that it's not about a fixed number of hours that you need sleep. It depends on how much exertion your body has gone through. So I don't really fixate that you need to get 6 hours or 8 hours of sleep. I practice yoga, so I had learned Hatha Yoga from the Isha Foundation, and I used to practice it very regularly, like 2 years before. But now I've realized it doesn't really align with my goals, so I've reduced that. But I try and do some kind of meditation or breathing practices every single day. I'm sure people have heard about the benefits of yoga that or the meditation can have. So if it's a day that I know I have a lot of things on my plate and I don't have the 8 hours luxury, although that would be the ideal case and I would want to get that much sleep, but I don't really have a fixated thing. So I try to sleep by around say 10:30 or 11 o'clock, and I'm up by around 6:30 or 7 in the morning if when I have my training. But during the lockdown, I have somehow the habit has changed, and now I'm not sleeping too early and getting up late. But sleep is important when I know when I'm putting in a lot of mileage, when I'm training for an event as a goal, your body is really exerted. That time I have slept for 10 hours straight and things like that. So pretty much I would keep it dynamic depending on the exertion of the body and how my body responds. So that is what has actually worked for me, rather than exactly like what the rules that we have with water. People say that you need to drink 2.5 liters of water or things like that, but I believe it's more about how much exerted you are and how much dehydrated you are depending on what you're doing physically. And that's so I always equate the same with sleep. So
You've been mentioning about your husband. He has been a secret character and not very visible. Can you tell us more about him? Because I've seen you. I've always seen him accompanying you in your journey. They always say that there is a women behind every man's success. And I think in your case, it's very different. And I'm really glad to know that your spouse is a great contributor to your journey. So can you tell us more about him, what he is doing? If he is hiding, you can see if you can pull out, bring him
I
into the
see.
scene and
I
show
see. So yeah,
with
ours
his
was a
name,
love.
please.
Yeah, so his
Introduction
name
to
is
his name.
Sandeep,
Yeah.
and ours was a love marriage. So we met 11 years ago in our
Uh,
first company, and
maybe he's
we
worried
are
too much that you're running away too much. Yeah.
no, no, no. So that's how I started. So when I was doing 10Ks, he used to accompany me for all my 10K events because
Very
they were short,
protective.
like 60 minutes, 75 minutes, or 80 minutes. And then when I shifted to half marathon, he came for the first one, I think, which happened in Bangalore. And then he said, you should go. I would come. So, but since I started doing my ultras, he's been someone who was wanted to be there wherever it was possible. So if it was like an event like Vagaman or somewhere where you can't really come back to the start line unless you finish. So stadiums, he's always been there. So I grew up in a very orthodox Brahmin family. So although I had support from my dad to pursue sport, but I didn't have the freedom to do whatever I like to do. And until I met my husband, and then we got married, and we've done a lot of bike trips across India. Um, on our Thunderbird, and we've covered like 5 states, the whole east and west coast of India, and Rajasthan and Ladakh and all that. So that's how it started out. He was the one who actually put the love for the outdoors in me. So we started hiking together. Most of the places around Bangalore, Savandurga, all these we had hiked together, and then we biked together, and then I started running. So he's also a runner. He has done multiple half marathons now, and he did his first 25K with the Bangalore Ultra in December. Um, so he is exploring, and I think it always helps if your spouse is someone who is interested in fitness, because when I come back from event and I'm so excited, I want to tell all the details of what happened. There was a turn and I missed it. I went here, or whatever happened, and even through my mind. It really helps when you have a listener and someone who understands the agony or all the suffering that we go through and says that it's okay. And he's been my biggest support because my dad was not very happy with my pursuit of ultra running because he believed that I should be setting up my family. And so he's taken a back seat. So it's my husband who's just been in the forefront of supporting me totally, and even my in-laws. So when I decided that I want to quit my job, there were no questions asked at home that what would happen to the income and stuff like that. So I have been very lucky in that aspect. So I would just try and see if he's here and okay, come.
So the man
Coach
behind the
Pesa
success
wants
story.
to. Yeah,
Hey,
that's my husband Sandeep.
uh, hey, you're thinning down, man. I think you're doing all the dishes, and uh, Ashwini is not doing any work, I guess, at home.
Coach, I have a one question.
Yes, who's that?
Naveen.
Naveen. Yeah, Naveen. Hi. Go ahead.
Sandeep bro, you have promised to do a full marathon. When is it happening?
Sandeep, that's Naveen. I don't know if you recollect him.
Yeah. I've met him. I've met Naveen. I remember him. Yeah, I'm not sure now, but sometime. Not sooner, but sometime.
No, don't run. We need a national athlete. After she achieves that, you can start running. Till the time we need somebody like you to take care of her.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we were just recollecting. I've seen you on Malnad and I've seen you in all the events, and I really appreciate the way you support your wife, and it's amazing to see that happening every time. Had really an interesting conversation and very inspiring too. It's always very easy to see somebody coming and finishing. Okay, I've done 112 kilometers. There's a lot of stories to be told because it's dedication, hard work, and even the believing in self. Ultramarathon has taught me a lot of wonderful things in life. To learn from experiences. And I think this is one of such journeys where all of us have something to take away from this conversation. Thank you so much, Ashwini. Thank you, Sandeep, for giving
the
us
opportunity, sir. And I had never actually done any kind of discussions with anybody about my journey. So it was really nice to even look back and, as we finish, this was something that my husband made for me. So this is the file. So this is my most treasured things. These are my bits of all my events that I've run till now. And I always write down my experience of the event and how it went and stuff like that. So it's been very nice to look back and see how the journey started.
Yeah, you should probably write about this interview and put it inside. And if you consider this as an important milestone, I think we are certainly gifted to have you here and also share your experiences. Good luck with your health and wealth and happiness in the family. And also I'd like to thank the entire Fitzians. My academy members are fondly called as Fitzians, for me to give this opportunity to talk to you and being sacrificing their Sunday to be here with us. Thank you so much and have a wonderful.
I think with the curfew, we were not going anywhere. Even otherwise, I'm very happy that I was able to do this. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.